Why would Xiao Yan, who had already become a deity, the most supreme existence in the Dou Qi continent, still sit down to drink and chat with a few low-star Dou Zuns like Lin Xiuya and the others? To those who only look at strength and status, it might seem strange. Xiao Yan had already reached the peak. He had surpassed countless experts, stepped over life-threatening challenges, and stood above the masses as an invincible powerhouse. From an outside perspective, the gap between a Dou Di and a low-star Dao Sun is like the distance between heaven and earth. But if you truly understand Xiao Yan's story, his journey, his struggles, and most importantly, his heart, then you'll see that this wasn't just natural, it was inevitable. Let's look back at the journey of Xiao Yan. He started at the age of 10 with nothing. He was once mocked as a waste, someone whose Dou Qi couldn't rise for 3 whole years. He was looked down upon, humiliated, and left by his fiancée. But instead of breaking, he used all that as fuel. And from that moment on, he never stopped moving forward. From the conflicts in Wutan City with the Jolly family, to the brutal fights in the Warcraft Mountains, from sneaking into the Yunlan sect to battling across Zhongzhou, Xiao Yan's journey was always one of blood and fire. It wasn't just about getting stronger, it was about surviving, protecting, and redeeming everything he cared about. In the early years, he fought for the honor of the Xiao family. Later, he fought to rescue his teacher, Yao Lao, and eventually to save his father. Each time, the stakes got higher and the enemy stronger. He wasn't just fighting beasts and villains. He was constantly playing a deadly game against ancient clans and old monsters who had lived for centuries. But amidst all this chaos and darkness, there was one period of light in his life, a time when he was allowed to be young, to be carefree, to have friends and laughter. And that time was during his years at Canaan Academy. There, Xiao Yan found more than just strength. He found camaraderie. He found a group of young people just like him, with passion in their hearts and dreams in their eyes. They weren't bound by power, wealth, or manipulation. They fought not because they were forced to, but because they loved the thrill. They weren't calculating allies. They were true friends. Lin Yan was one of those people. Lin Yan wasn't powerful at first. He was just a passionate fighter, hot-blooded and honest. But from the moment Xiao Yan stepped into the academy, Lin Yan stood by him. When Xiao Yan was still far from strong, Lin Yan was already willing to risk everything for him. Back when Xiao Yan spoke of returning to the Jama Empire to take revenge, Lin Yan, still a Daoling, didn't hesitate. He agreed without question, even knowing that Yunlan sect had a Daozong. For a Daoling to challenge a Daozong, it's suicide. But Lin Yan never saw Xiao Yan as a rising star to cling to. He saw him as a brother. And then came the darkest time, when everyone thought Xiao Yan had died in the Tianfen Qi training tower. Lin Yan didn't move on. He waited 2 whole years, holding on to nothing but belief. And when Xiao Yan finally returned, Lin Yan stood with him again, ready to fight. At the Xifang Pavilion Conference, Xiao Yan was exposed. Lin Yan, barely a 3-star or 4-star Dao Huang at the time, stood his ground against an army of Duzongs and even a Duzun. No hesitation, no retreat. That's what real friendship looks like. That's what Xiao Yan remembers. Not who was strongest, but who stood beside him when the odds were hopeless. And it wasn't just Lin Yan. There was also Liu Qing. Early on, Liu Qing and Xiao Yan clashed, mostly because of his sister Liu Fei. But those tensions faded quickly. Liu Qing wasn't a petty person. He was proud, yes, but upright. Their fight during the Heart Flame body forging training changed everything. As the saying goes, you don't truly know someone until you fought them. And after that battle, their grudges were gone, replaced with mutual respect. Over time, Liu Fei matured, and Xiao Yan never held on to past resentment. That's the kind of person he was. He never clung to old grudges, only remembered sincere bonds. And of course, we cannot forget Lin Xiuya. When Xiao Yan had just entered the inner courtyard, still just a great douceur, Lin Xiuya was already a top-tier expert among students. Yet instead of bullying or challenging him, Lin Xiuya extended a hand of friendship. When others were wary or hostile, Lin Xiuya saw potential. And when Xiao Yan acquired the Earth Core tempering milk, Lin Xiuya didn't say a word. He knew very well Opportunities go to those who have the strength to seize them. No envy, no drama, just quiet admiration. And when the academy was attacked by Han Feng and a group of Du Huangs, Lin Xiuya and Liu Qing stepped up. They weren't even full Dou Wangs yet, just half-step Dou Wangs. But they didn't run. They didn't hide. They stepped into battle to buy Xiao Yan just a few more minutes. And sometimes those few minutes are the difference between life and death. Later, during the raid on Yunlan sect, Lin Yan, Lin Xiuya, and Liu Qing once again followed Xiao Yan into the fire. The sect had multiple Du Zongs and more than a dozen Dou Wangs, plus a terrifying Wu protector. The three of them had no reason to go. They weren't offered rewards. They weren't seeking glory. But they went anyway, because Xiao Yan asked. That's it. And even after, when Xiao Yan helped Lin Yan escape from danger in Zhongzhou, or aided Liu Qing's family in managing spatial wormholes, he never saw it as a repayment. To him, loyalty deserved loyalty. Gratitude didn't have an expiration date. Xiao Yan was like that with everyone. Even someone like Hai Bodong, he always called him Hai Lao out of respect, from beginning to end. No matter how powerful Xiao Yan became, he never lost his humility. He never became arrogant. He never forgot who helped him on the way up. That's the difference between Xiao Yan and people like Tang San. Tang San might see spending time with old friends as a favor, but Xiao Yan, even if he became the great Lord of Heaven, even if his friends asked him to refine a saint-grade Tianji Zun pill, he would try. Not because he owed them, but because he cared, because they were his brothers. Even if he knocked on the gates of heaven to get it done, he would still never feel like he had repaid anything, because their bond wasn't transactional, it was spiritual. And that's why, at the very end, after becoming a Dao Emperor, Xiao Yan could still sit down, laugh, drink, and reminisce with Lin Xiuya and the others. Because to him, strength doesn't change relationships. Power doesn't define friendship. And titles like Dou Di or Dou Sun don't erase the shared memories, hardships, and sacrifices that brought them together. Even when he stood at the peak of the world, he never lost the young man he used to be. He never looked down on those who had once stood beside him. In fact, when he first met someone like Mu Chen in the cemetery of the Heavenly Emperor, someone who was far weaker and of lower status, Xiao Yan still spoke with humility. He always believed in equality, always stayed grounded. Those three, Lin Yan, Liu Qing, and Lin Xiuya, they didn't help him because of what he could offer. They didn't back him up because they expected something in return. So now Xiao Yan doesn't treat them like subordinates or followers. He treats them as brothers. That's why this scene at the end of Battle Through the Heavens is so meaningful. It's not just a celebration of victory, it's a return to the heart of the story. The reminder that even the greatest power in the world is meaningless without loyalty, humility, and friendship. And that is the true charm of Dou Po Cangqiong. So what do you think? Would you still sit and drink with your old friends, even after becoming a god among men? If this touched you, maybe it's time to go back and reread Battle Through the Heavens. Because sometimes the real treasure isn't power. It's the people who believed in you before you had any. And that's the beauty of Battle Through the Heavens. It's not just a story of one man's rise to power. It's a story of bonds forged in fire, loyalty tested through trials, and friendships that transcend strength or status. If this reflection gave you a new perspective on Xiao Yan and his journey, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. There's so much more to explore in the world of Donghua, and we'll be diving into it one story at a time. Let me know in the comments, who do you think was Xiao Yan's most loyal companion? And what moment in Dou Po Cangqiong hit you the hardest? Thanks for watching. Until next time, stay strong, stay passionate, and never forget the people who stood with you at your weakest.